Hi, welcome to Surviving Disruption. I'm so glad you are joining me and learning about the tips that I am sharing with you in regards to, finding your joy, uh, becoming the person that you want to become, finding your worthiness. So many times after we have, experienced a disruption in our life. And when I talk about disruption, I'm talking about, maybe it was a funeral type of grief. You've lost someone that you have, that you love. Maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's a child, maybe it's a parent, maybe it's your own sibling. Any kind of loss that is a funeral type of loss can be a disruption. But then also there's those silent griefs, those griefs of mourning the person you thought you would be. Maybe it's mourning the future that you thought you would have, but you no longer have it because of this disruption. Could be the mourning of now you are um, a empty nester. That's the word I was looking for because your children have moved out. And so things have changed for you. I did a wonderful podcast earlier in the week. It will be coming out later in September. It's on the caretaker's journey. And we talked a lot about even caretakers and that disruption of your life. Caretakers take on this huge responsibility of taking care of loved ones. Women were already naturally caretakers, but then we might take on that extra responsibility by, caring for a loved one that is terminally ill or suffering a mental illness and needs care. So there's so many things that disrupt our life. The other ones I just talked about is maybe a job change or a loss of a job. Again, there's so many things that can be a disruption to your life, and that puts on some extra stress. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about stopping overthinking. And when we stop overthinking, it can help regulate our nervous system. But if we are overthinking, it it causes our nervous system to stay stuck or dysregulated. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So many women come to me saying they are overwhelmed, they're stressed. And when we start to peel back the layers, we realize that one, they are overthinking. They have been overthinking all the shoulds or maybe the what ifs. Uncertainty itself brings on a lot of overthinking. And there are so much uncertainty when we've had a disruption. Uh, Uncertainty of our finances, uncertainty again about our futures. And so that brings on a lot of overthinking itself. But then there's the overthinking that comes from our own internal messages that we say to ourselves. Like, am I good enough? Oh, or maybe um, they don't like me. There are so many internal messages that get ingrained either from our future or from traumas that we've experienced, not necessarily our future. I meant the past. Um, but there's these messages get ingrained. And so that becomes a part of our overthinking process too. And when we get triggered by an event, and that trigger then causes us to start thinking. And when we start thinking, we can get into this loop. And that loop, or even just the thoughts itself, can create or will create our nervous system to respond with fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And that response isn't always a helpful response, but our body believes that it's a helpful response. And I have so many overthinking women that when they come to me, they will say, I know you've told me to practice all these self care techniques, but I'm still feeling exhausted. I'm still feeling like I have that tight feeling on my chest, or my shoulders are still hurting me. Why aren't things changing? And so when we start to talk about it, we start to see that they are overthinking still. And then, even if they start to stop overthinking, then they're still wondering, why isn't it changing? Well, our nervous system, when we start to change our thoughts and stop overthinking so much, and we start doing some of the exercise to regulate our nervous system, it still can be foreign for our system to receive joy because it hasn't been doing that while you were overthinking. I mean, let's take a moment here and think about this. You go on vacation, you have a wonderful time. You do not overthink all of the wonderful things that happened during that vacation, but you will overthink about the laundry that needs to be done when you get back from vacation, maybe all the emails that you have to respond to, maybe getting kids ready for school. All of those kind of things will we will overthink. We never overthink all the joyful things. And so joy can be foreign to our body, and our body still will respond because it's not, those things are still uncertain for them, our body to feel. And so we need to do the work in regards to how do we stop the overthinking. And when you connect with me, my first training I will be doing a training in September called Root Rise Receive. And I will be giving you the first steps to regulating your nervous system when we will talk about my rooting ritual. But then we will also start to talk about how we rise above our old stories. So those old beliefs, or those internal messages that you hear, we will start to dive into those and start talking about how to change those messages. But then, if you want more, you're going to need to contact me, and you can book your free mission to motion call. The link is in my description. And we can talk a little bit more about how you stop that pattern of overthinking. How do you disrupt that pattern so that your body can start to regulate the way that it needs to regulate? Because you really do need to do both the cognitive work and the regulating practice work. And I've been giving you tips each week on how to regulate your system with the somatic techniques that I teach inside my coaching program. But also, if you've been doing those practices and you're noticing that I still feel, or it might be temporary, but I'm still feeling like I've got that overwhelmed feeling, then there's probably this overthinking pattern that has to be disrupted. And we also have to probably change those internal messages that you hear. I don't know. Again, I've had recently a client came to me. She's been working with me for a little while, and she has been noticing huge changes. She's been doing journaling. She's been doing, meditation for over 100 days straight. And she was still not feeling like she was worthy enough. And she's finally learning how to rise above that message of being worthy enough. And she is seeing so many positive things come her way. She's had 2 job offers. Her relationship is flourishing. She's bought her first home herself, and she's no longer going to be a renter. So she has all of these great things coming toward her. And it was in that she's opened herself up to receiving by doing the rooting, but then also rising above those old messages. So she's taken, what she's needed to disrupt that pattern and get herself to the point where she can, is ready to receive all these grateful things that are happening for her. And that is what happens when we can, again, disrupt the thoughts and regulate our nervous system together. Uh, Again, so disrupting the thoughts, it takes a lot of practice and consistency because we have those old messages that have been ingrained. But then also, when we have current triggers or current events that happen, we have to be able to stop the cycle of overthinking. And that takes a lot of work. Recently, I had my own situation where I could have easily been overthinking something, but I took the moment, to root. But then also, I was able to stop that thought process. And also, recently this week, I was so thankful that I know how to root and use my rooting ritual because I had been doing the Caretaker Journey podcast live. We had recorded like 4 episodes back to back. And of course, we talked a lot about my events that had disrupted my life. And so there were a lot of emotional triggers that had come up. And I'm usually, pretty good because I give myself time in between another, maybe event or another, that day I had a session with a client and I didn't give myself enough time to do the rooting practice. And I walked into my session feeling pretty overwhelmed myself. I was just emotionally drained. And so I wasn't connected to my client like I needed to be. And so I recognized how important it is to put that built in that schedule of time in between uh, things like that, in between like something I know that's going to be emotionally draining and then seeing a client. And so knowing your own body signs is very important when we're talking about emotional and nervous system regulation because those kind of things, like I said, I didn't build that into my schedule. And when I walked out of that session, when I clicked end the session, I realized that I really wasn't connected to her. And when I took the moment to really think about it, I realized what I had done. And I was able to, do my rooting, parts of my rooting ritual as before I walked into an exercise class, but then really use that exercise class, with the music and the movement to regulate my nervous system. And then I walked out feeling this smile over my face and I just felt lighter. And those are the things that happen because I'm able to listen to my body. Now, if I didn't listen to my body, I could have easily gone into overthinking of that I failed my client, that I'm not a good enough coach, that I, did all these wrong things and that I wasn't worthy. But I didn't have those messages because I was able to recognize my system and get myself, rooted and feel the joy. And I didn't take myself to those lower level emotions either because I had, I had disrupted my thoughts. So again, that's the importance of recognizing your body, disrupting, stopping the thoughts from going into that loop. And so they work together and that's what's creating progress for myself and for my clients. Like I said, my client is now receiving all these wonderful things for herself. So like I've been doing, each week I'm giving you a somatic tip. But as we're learning today, those somatic tips will also help when you can stop the overthinking loop. So let's dive into a card like we have been and see what we have today. All right. We've got art therapy. So, art therapy is a therapeutic practice that uses the creative process of making art to improve a person's physical, mental, and emotional well being. This form of therapy can help individuals express themselves, explore their emotions, and develop self awareness. It is used to address a wide range of issues, including stress, anxiety, depression, trauma, and chronic illness. So, creating your own safe space is the best practice when you want to use this kind of technique. So, designating a quiet, comfortable area in your home where you can work undisturbed. So, when we're talking about art therapy, you don't need someone telling you what to create. Just create a space for you, gather all of your materials that you want to be able to use, and choose an activity. Pick an art form that you feel drawn to, whether it's just drawing, painting, sculpting, using any kind of medium will be helpful. I have clients that knit and crochet. I have clients that paint. I have clients that use, that diamond painting. So there's lots of different mediums that you can use. So whatever you're feeling drawn to, you use that medium and set an intention. Decide what you wish to explore or express through your art. This could be a feeling, a memory, simply a moment of creativity. Engage in the creative process. Focus on creating art without concern for the outcome. Allow your feelings and intuition to guide your hands. Reflect on your artwork. After you finish, spend some time looking at what you've created. Think about what it might say about your inner state and emotions. If you want, you can journal your thoughts about this process. What did you notice in your art? What did you feel while doing this? And again, don't use that time to judge yourself or judge your artwork. It is just a time of expression. And you can share it if you would desire with people that you love or you would like to share it with, but you don't have to. It can be just your time. And if this is something that you find helpful or useful, then maintain a regular practice for that. Incorporate it into, a daily or a weekly routine. So again, this is just another technique or a tip that can be used to help regulate your emotions and nervous system. But again, if you're noticing that it is not always helping, then take a step back, sit quietly, and notice if your thoughts are getting in the way. And that's what's causing you also to not regulate your system. All right. Again, thank you for joining me, and make sure that you share this video with someone that you might or that you know that can benefit from it. And make sure you're subscribing to Surviving Disruption so that you don't miss out on any other live trainings that I offer. And make sure that you look at all those links that are in the description. I have, Root Rise Receive is coming up. That's in September. If you register before August 31st, you're going to earn a free bonus. And there are over $5,000 worth of bonuses being offered during Root Rise Receive. So you want to make sure that you register so that you don't miss out on any of those other bonuses that are offered. There is a link to book a Mission to Motion call if that is what's driving you right now and you want to dive more into these overthinking thoughts. And then also, you could join my membership, monthly membership, where I'm going to provide once a month trainings, free trainings that are going to be different than these YouTube trainings. And then there is also going to be a time when you are being offered like hot seat coaching. You can come to the call with a question and have yourself coached on that question. So that's going to be all inside my membership, a monthly membership. And then you will get emails each month with a specific tip for the month. Okay. Again, thanks for joining me. We will talk soon.